The hunt was over, or so they thought. Vorik stood at the edge of the clearing, his heavy, taloned feet sinking into the damp, blood-red soil of the jungle. The air was thick with the stench of decay, humid and cloying, wrapping around his battle-worn armor like an embrace from the dead. His scaled lips curled into a smirk as he stared down at their prey, a lone human, standing in the center of the kill zone. The human was an anomaly, a mistake of biology that should not have survived this long. Vorik had hunted across 100 worlds, slain warriors whose very names struck terror into planetary militias. And yet, here stood this creature, unbowed, unbroken, wrapped in tattered combat gear that was torn and blackened with old blood, some of it not even his own. The hunter's second-in-command, Kravis, let out a guttural chuckle, adjusting his plasma rifle. Pathetic. The council said this one would be a challenge. The others laughed. Harsh, barking sounds that echoed through the trees. Their exoskeletal armor clinked as they moved, positioning themselves in a loose circle. Vorik raised a hand, silencing them. His slitted eyes narrowed as he observed the human more closely. Something was wrong. The human, Callan Graves, Vorik recalled the name from the intelligence reports, stood still, too still, not with the defeated posture of the beaten, nor the trembling of the fearful. He was loose, relaxed, his weight balanced lightly on the balls of his feet. And then, he did something Vorik had not anticipated. He laughed. It was a low sound at first, barely a ripple in the thick jungle air, but it grew deep, rich, and utterly devoid of fear. It was the kind of laugh one might hear from a man who had seen the abyss and found it wanting. The kind of laugh that made even the most seasoned killers hesitate. The tension shifted almost imperceptibly, but Vorik felt it. His hunters stopped chuckling. Kravis, closest to the human, flexed his fingers over his weapon's trigger, his mandibles twitching. Callan tilted his head slightly, his piercing gaze sweeping over them. So that's it. This is your grand hunt. A bunch of overgrown lizards standing around with their tails tucked between their legs. He exhaled sharply, almost a sigh. I expected more. Kravis took a step forward, snarling. Watch your tongue, meat. You have no weapons, no cover, no escape. Callan met his gaze, unblinking. Escape? Why the hell would I want to escape? The moment stretched, brittle, and sharp. The hunters had expected pleading. Fear. A last, desperate attempt to run. Instead, they got something infinitely worse. A man who believed he had already won. Vorik moved first. He was done with this theater. His clawed hand shot up, signaling the kill order. A single heartbeat later, Callan moved. Not away. Not to cower or beg. He lunged. There was no hesitation, no wasted motion. His hands, empty a moment ago, flashed through the air. Dirt erupted as he spun low, seizing a jagged, broken branch from the jungle floor. Before Kravis could fire, Callan drove it upward, right between the alien's chitinous plates. The makeshift weapon punched through with a sickening crunch, piercing deep into the exposed flesh beneath. Kravis gurgled, his mandibles flaring in shock. His plasma rifle fired wildly into the air before he collapsed, twitching in the blood-soaked dirt. The clearing exploded into chaos. The hunters reacted, years of combat experience snapping into place, weapons firing, movement fluid and precise. But Callan was already gone, slipping into the jungle's twisted undergrowth like a phantom. Vorik bellowed orders, his voice cutting through the din. Track him. Drive him to the ruins. Hunters fanned out, their enhanced optics scanning through the foliage, their nostrils flaring to catch his scent. But the jungle had swallowed him whole. The hunt, it seemed, had just begun. The jungle pulsed with the rhythmic hum of nocturnal life, a discordant symphony of unseen creatures. The hunters moved like shadows through the foliage, their chitinous armor glistening under the dim, bioluminescent flora. Vorik's senses were razor-sharp, his instincts honed from years of pursuing prey across the stars. And yet, despite his expertise, the human was proving to be a phantom. Kravis had fallen in seconds, too fast, too easily. Vorik replayed the moment in his mind, dissecting it. The human had moved with purpose, with the lethal efficiency of a born killer. Not the desperate flailing of cornered prey. No, this was different. The reports had warned that humans were adaptable, but this was something else entirely. Spread out, cut off the valley route. Vorik's voice was a low snarl, his command relayed through the neural links of his pack. The hunters fanned out, adjusting their optics to different wavelengths, searching for heat signatures, movement, anything that might betray their quarry's location. Then a sound, a deliberate rustling in the undergrowth, too measured to be an animal. A lure. Vorik signaled two of his best, Skarath and Jirik, to flank the disturbance. They moved in unison, their weapons primed, their breaths steady. The undergrowth trembled. Skarath leapt forward, rifle raised, eyes sweeping. A sharp whistle cut through the air. From above, Callan Graves dropped from the canopy like a vengeful wraith, landing on Scarith's back with bone-snapping force. Before Jirik could react, the human wrenched Scarith's own knife from his belt and drove it into the alien's throat, twisting hard. Black ichor sprayed in a violent arc. Jirik howled, raising his rifle. A trap. The plasma blast streaked past Callan as he twisted away, rolling into the brush. The second shot never came. A crude but effective snare had been laid, a rope of thick jungle vines yanked tight around Jirik's ankle. He was ripped off his feet, yanked upward, his head cracking against a low branch. He struggled, screeched, but Callan was already there, gripping the dangling hunter by the mandibles and slamming his head into the tree with a sickening crunch. Silence settled once more. Vorik's gut twisted. This wasn't a hunt. This was an execution. Regroup. Do not engage alone. His voice echoed through the trees. There was no more underestimation, no more amusement. This human was not prey. He was a predator, and he was hunting them. The remaining hunters formed a defensive perimeter, weapons raised, scanning the jungle. Vorik's mind raced. The ruins, yes. They needed to drive him there, force him into a position where his tricks, his ambushes, his damned unpredictability wouldn't matter. A rapid hand signal, and his hunters understood. They began firing into the jungle. Not at Callan, but at the trees, the ground, the foliage. Plasma bolts ignited dry leaves, forcing their prey to move. Vorik saw a flicker of motion, a shadow darting between cover. They had him now. The chase resumed, but this time it was controlled. The human moved with precision, but they were hurting him, pushing him toward the ancient ruins that loomed in the distance. Weathered stone and forgotten glyphs stood like silent sentinels against the creeping jungle. If Vorik could force him into the dead-end corridors and collapsed halls, the advantage would shift. A blur of movement ahead. Callan breaching the perimeter of the ruins. Vorik grinned. Now, let's see how clever you really are, human. The ruins swallowed Callan in darkness, their crumbling walls whispering with the echoes of a long-dead civilization. He moved quickly, his breath steady, scanning the architecture for any advantage. The hunters were closing in, their footfalls reverberating through the ancient stone like the drums of an encroaching storm. He had to be smarter, faster. A low growl rippled through the chamber as Vorik led his remaining hunters inside. Their luminous optics flared in the darkness, slicing through the gloom with predatory precision. The ruins neutralized Callan's thermal advantage. He would be forced into direct confrontation soon. Vorik welcomed it. The human had eluded them for too long. A flicker of motion. Vorik pivoted, firing a quick burst. Stone shattered, but there was no scream, no body. A decoy. The human was taunting them now. Vorik snarled, gesturing for his pack to spread out, to sweep the ruins methodically. Callan crouched in the shadows, watching. He had counted 4 left, Vorik and 3 others. They moved with caution now, but that didn't mean they weren't dangerous. Vorik was different from the rest. Callan could see it in his movements, his strategy. This was a commander who adapted. But even adaptability had limits. A single shot rang out. One of Vorik's hunters staggered back, clutching his shoulder as dark ichor spattered the stone. The bolt had come from above. Vorik's head snapped up, but the rafters were empty. Another trap. The injured hunter took a step back, only for the floor beneath him to give way. Callan had loosened the fragile stone beforehand, anticipating their approach. The alien tumbled into the abyss below, his shriek swallowed by the void. 3 left. Vorik's mandibles clicked in agitation. He raised a fist, signaling a halt. The human was controlling the battlefield, forcing them into his tempo. Vorik would not play this game any longer. Enough, he growled, switching tactics. Face me, human. Show me you are as strong as you claim. Silence. Then laughter. It echoed through the ruins, a low, rolling chuckle that sent an unnatural chill down Vorik's spine. The hunter stiffened. The sound was wrong, devoid of fear, filled instead with something Vorik had never heard from prey before. Amusement. You still don't get it, do you? Callan's voice carried through the chamber, bouncing off the walls. You're not hunting me. I'm hunting you. A blur. Callan dropped from above, rolling as he hit the ground, already moving. Vorik barely had time to react before a blade flashed. The nearest hunter gargled, his throat slit before he could scream. 2 left. Shots fired. Callan dove behind cover as plasma seared the air. Vorik pressed forward, his remaining hunter flanking. The ruins were collapsing around them, dust and debris filling the air with each missed shot. Callan felt the shift beneath his feet. The structure was old, unstable. He could use that. He moved again, leading them toward a weakened archway. Vorik followed, relentless, his second barely a step behind. Callan stopped abruptly, just beneath the fragile stones. Too slow. A single shot. Not at them, but at the arch above. Stone crumbled. The structure groaned before collapsing in a deafening roar. Vorik lunged backward, narrowly avoiding being buried alive. His final hunter was not so lucky. 1 left. Vorik rose from the rubble, his armor cracked, his weapons lost in the debris. Across from him, Callan stood, battered but alive. The ruins around them had become a graveyard of Vorik's hunters. Callan smiled, blood staining his teeth. Just you and me now. Let's finish this. The ruins settled into a heavy silence, dust still thick in the air, illuminated only by the glow of Vorik's optics. He rose slowly, the weight of failure pressing on his shoulders. Around him lay the remnants of his once formidable hunting party, reduced to nothing but shattered bodies and crumbling stone. His mandibles clenched. This was not how it was supposed to end. Across the broken ground, Callan stood, rolling his shoulders, blood smeared across his face. Some of it was his. Most of it wasn't. His knife glinted under the dim light, its edge dark with alien ichor. Looks like it's just this now big guy. Vorik exhaled sharply. He had underestimated this human from the beginning, mistaking him for mere prey. That was his mistake. A fatal one. Callan moved first. He shot forward, knife flashing in an arc aimed at Vorik's throat. Vorik deflected with a sweeping arm, his gauntlet catching the blade and sending sparks into the air. The force of the impact sent Callan staggering back, but he didn't stop. He pivoted, twisting low to sweep Vorik's legs. Vorik leapt back just in time, but Callan followed through with a kick to the chest, sending him reeling. The hunter barely caught himself, his claws digging into the stone for purchase. He growled, forcing himself upright. He had strength. He had size. But the human had something else, relentlessness. They clashed again. Callan was a blur, striking with precision and speed, never staying still long enough for Vorik to counter. The alien commander tried to grab him, to pin him down, but Callan always slipped away, his movements unpredictable, his strikes devastating. Then Vorik caught him. A mistake. Callan had overextended, and Vorik's massive claw closed around his arm, lifting him effortlessly. With a guttural roar, he slammed the human against a stone pillar. The impact sent cracks, spiderwebbing across the ancient structure. Callan gasped, pain flaring through his ribs. Vorik pressed in, his mandibles clicking. You fought well, human. But this is over. Callan grinned, coughing up blood. Yeah? Look again. Vorik hesitated, then noticed the blinking light on Callan's wrist. Too late. A detonation rocked the ruins. The charges Callan had placed earlier exploded in a precise chain reaction, ripping through the foundation of the chamber. The ground beneath Vorik trembled before giving way. The alien commander barely had time to snarl before the stone collapsed beneath him, dragging him into the abyss. Callan scrambled back, rolling away from the crumbling edge. He lay there, breathing heavily, staring at the void where Vorik had disappeared. Silence followed. Then, a distant impact far below. He exhaled, forcing himself upright. Every muscle ached, but he was alive. The hunt was over. He turned, limping toward the exit of the ruins. As he stepped in the night, he took one last glance at the battlefield behind him. Next time, he muttered to no one in particular, maybe don't hunt something that hunts you back. With that, he disappeared into the darkness, leaving only the silence of the ruins and the ghosts of those who had dared to challenge him.